All right. Hello, good peoples, and good late evening. I'm knocking out Coney and Misty. So let's jump into it. All right. So Coney had no shares bought. Let's see what happens. So Coin was down 3.90, and we were down a little bit more in Coney, minus 3.95. So pretty close, pretty even. Okay, so three of the trades, no synthetics, because no buy-in, and they didn't have to roll. So essentially, they closed out these positions. These two were like 6.9998. They closed those out a day early. So the bulk was the 9,999 at 2 cents, the 525 at 2 cents, and the 9,600 at 2 cents. So essentially, they captured like 99.45% when you take into the factor the early ones of all of that revenue. So excellent, excellent week. But that's prone to happen when you're going down. Flat to down will generate wins in the weekly. You just don't want to get so far behind in your synthetics. So let's look across, not a lot, right? Flat share count, still 950. So they didn't really have the money to go out and buy additional synthetics, which could have contributed. So let's go look at how these stack up. Oh, and sorry, so then they sold one strike. I'm not particularly happy about putting it all at, and this was one more 550 that they bought back. But so everything bought on Friday was at 2 cents because they were in no danger of having those put to them in these 250s, 257, 262 fives. You know, we closed down at 225. So they put one new position, and this needs to be corrected. This is a 628. I always color code those different. Whoops, that's not where I want to put it. I want to put it there. And then I'll make the... And then next time I do the video update, I will just simply take these away. But I leave them there so you can sort of see what happened, right? So all of, you know, the debits are pretty small, and you see how much was at stake. 3.2 million, we paid 20,000. 1.5, we paid 35,000. 2,318,000, we paid 19,000. 96,000, we paid 1,100. So there's where you get your big wins, right? So we wrote 8.7, call it 8.7, 500,000, right? 8.75 million that we wrote and put in the piggy bank. So that was a nice sell. Now, how far out was that? 5.15. My only issue is why all in one, right? I know they'll come back and they'll say, well, we think we're going to get better premium and it's likely to be down, so we're far out of the money that we're saved. But you're never really far out of the money. I mean, with this yin and yang, the good news is if in fact crypto took off and ran up 10%, yeah, we would lose on these, but we would win on our synthetic. All right, let's go take a look at what they look like when we see it here. All at one strike, the 237.50, which is 5.15% out of the money, right? So 225 to 213, 237 is, you know, not quite 12 points, which constitutes 5.15. They expire the end of next week. So as a reminder for all of these YIELDMAX funds, I'm going to do Misty next, they all have one more opportunity to write a call. At the end of the week of 628, you know, assuming they capture all this, but even if they don't and they have to buy it back, they'll write another one. They'll collect that money. That one will expire on the 5th of July. And that's pretty much done because on the 3rd, early in the morning, they declare. Now, if people buy into the fund and go bargain shopping, then they'll be able to get new monies to add to the synthetics, and that will help in the payout. So, you know, sometimes it's a mixed bag, but that's you almost have to think about it like that. So far this week, we wrote this 8.3 million. Now, that money is already collected and counted when I show it, and that's down 17.65 so far, which, you know, what happens is you buy it at certain time of the day, and then the fund goes up or goes down, and it affects the call, right? So it's as simple as that. Typically, it would go up, and that's what would cause us to be behind. So when we look at holdings, that's what's reflected right here, right? So we wrote these, and we wrote them for 3.4, I believe, when you go to June. Yeah, 3.4, and they ended up being valued at $4. But again, you know, there's so much time premium in that. And I need to fix this. That is a 237.5. Okay. And it's 628 to be exact. Okay. So these are all accurate, right? So we sold something for 8.7, almost 875, and we'd have to buy it back for 10, which represents 17,000, right? So this is a big zero. Misty had a little bit of shares bought. This is accurate. So we closed at 20.4, and fair value is 20.41. And I will say on this is getting ugly. But I will remind you, it's a month out, and all it takes is a bull run to wipe that out pretty quickly. Misty's actually in better shape. They haven't collected as much money as Coney, but their synthetic is, you know, 8 or 9 million under. So that's like a day move to fix that. But this thing has been 33, 56, 58, and with that big drop down relative, almost 4%, we're sitting at 82. We went from 58 to 82. So a good 10, 12%, 15% rise, and that's wiped out in a month. That's easy to do. But let's see which way crypto goes. Again, I think it's favoring the downside if it breaks 60. Right now, it's a little bit in no man's land. I'd love to see it get back over 65 and stay in that upper tier. But let's see. You know, nobody can predict short term. So there's our graph, right? We're going in the wrong direction with our synthetic, so we're winning all of our weeklies. All right, I think we can jump ahead. There's not much else to really go over. So let's look at our payments. So I sent a short out. I did that kind of a teaser. Anybody that saw that, it was late, and I just said, hey, because YouTube really pushes you to do these shorts, and I'm not much of a short guy, but I made one, and it was like a teaser for Coney. What's the payout going to be? And of course, what you want to do is link it to your long form viewers so that you get subscribers and they can come in and regularly watch your channel. I mean, the shorts themselves are boring. You don't really get paid on them per se, unless you have some kind of viral, and you know, our topics aren't of that nature. So the good news is this increases, right? So we wrote all that weekly, that last 8.7. The other money we really had already collected, right? If anything, we paid a small portion back, 2 cents here, 2 cents there. That doesn't even show up here, though it's so small. So were we to pay today, okay, so we're looking at, call this 60 cents. So we've got $1.47, make it $1.48. That's what they could pay out if they wanted to even these out. Now, last month, there wasn't any money to really be taken at all, and they paid $1.69. So, you know, these are hard to absolutely predict. They go down and pay us $1.07, which happens to match the lowest in the 9 months that this fund has been paying, right? It's paid 107 twice. Everything else is, you know, 150, 160, and then up into the twos. So I suspect will be a 150 to 190 kind of a payout. But again, they need to win this weekly. If they lose this weekly, then we take some money away from this. But if they lose the weekly, that also means they're gaining some of that synthetic, but that doesn't produce any money in the piggy bank to actually pay us. It just removes a paper loss. All right, hope this helps, guys. So I should update this. Now it's got a paper loss of 82. Everything else is pretty accurate. Okay, and again, we got a month on that. All right, let's jump to our friend at Coney. Let's see what we got here. Coney. All right. So let's go to our June tab. I just did Coney. Hello, Bruce. Where is Misty when you want her? Okay, there she is. All right, so I finished Coney. Let's do Misty. Misty had a heck of a lot of trades. Let me scroll to the sheet that's got, I mean, I could just take it straight off there, but all right, so I color-coded the orange for you. So these are all the ones that we bought back. So we bought an 8 cent, a 5 cent, a 7 cent, an 8 cent. So we won all of our synthetics, right? This is the initial amount that we received. This is what they had to pay to buy it back. You know, it's multiplied the amount of contracts times the pennies. And so this becomes our net loss. So again, 99 and something percent, right? I think it was 99.24 that we won. And then Misty put on, there was a synthetic, it's not a roll. They simply, and it's this 20 count, I'll show it to you in a minute. So these other three were just straight out. This one was actually done here on 6/20 because they had bought one of these back, I think, early. Well, or it was just money that flew in to the account because people were buying shares. So they put this 67 contracts on back on the 20th. So on the 21st, this is the bulk, this 1740. But this one matched the synthetic. They did a buy, call, sell, put of 20 contracts and the same active synthetic, which is 1550. So I'll go show you that in a minute. Otherwise, these are all the calls, right? So they collected 4.1 on the big guy, 8.7 right there is 5.4 million or 5.3 million. And so altogether we got about 5.5 when you add all of these up. And then we have the synthetic. So let's go look at our synthetic. So they sold the 20, right? The matching pair, buy call, sell put, and then write covered contract, right? Although it's really not a covered call, but if you want to call it a covered strategy contract, that's fair. Okay, so they got 224 and 381. So they got 160, 155,000. So that reduces our loss, right, from 16,601 before we put the transaction to 16,444. So let's take a look with all of that activity. What does it look like? Well, let's, sorry, I forgot one, actually 2 steps. So here's your weekly layout, right? It's a little over 5.3. And this is the percentage out of the money. Not big for Misty, right? Misty actually had an up day, and I forgot to show that to you. So let's go over here with Misty and take a look at that. So Misty, whenever you do these multiple ones, you have to drag everything. So this column becomes the recording column, right? It shows the change. So Misty went from 1465 to 1483. You saw Coney down, you saw other crypto down, BTC was down, but we were up 1.25 on Misty and for Mister and 1.06 for Misty, right? So that's, I got so into these calls because I was excited at all the money they're collecting. I forgot to just give you the nuance. They also added 125,000 shares. So they went from 9.5 to 9.625. So what we do is we just keep scrolling, just keep bringing these down, right? Because here you want to have a running total so that you can track this stuff in your payout sheet. Okay, so I covered that. I thought I was not doing something. All right, so getting into this is what tells you how far out, how much risk are they taking? Well, fair amount. But again, if Bitcoin is still just kind of consolidating and trending down, this will be a walk in the park and they'll win these, right? So you always have that mixed bag when it's only 5% average out there. Because your bulk is at the 4.8, right? 1740 really, or less than 5%. All right, how does that look on holdings before we go to, and we're minus 22%, and you'll see that on the holdings. And when you're in whoops. Oh no, I'm okay. I just didn't change some of these to reflect the right. So ignore that I didn't make these 628s and I didn't make the strike price, but everything where it matters and in weeklies, the strike price is done, so it doesn't affect any numbers. This is just busy work. So bottom line, these would get changed, right? They didn't write a 1650. These are, what were they? 1555s. Yeah. Okay. All these other numbers here are accurate. So on this guy, we're break even. This is the one that they wrote early, I believe. No, that was a 67. So they wrote it yesterday. It stayed where they wrote it. This one, they're behind 28%, so it moved up considerable. I think they got 29 or 30 on that one and the closing price. But you never worry about, there's so much time premium in those weeklies. This one, we're down 18%, and this is the one we wrote the day before, so we're actually 7% up, but it's a small guy. So these are weighting it down and calling it a losing 22%. Don't worry about it, right? Now, their synthetic, we moved up slightly. Their synthetic got healthier. So at 10.9, you can see the history, right? Oh, I didn't update this one. So they're 10.9, and the previous day would be 14, 12, and 5. I drug it over, but I didn't update it. So that's just an 043 there. We'll do that. 768. And then this number is smaller. 33, 965, 980. Okay, so now we have our 10, and we were 14 before, and we were 12, and we were 5 a while back. So in general, we did better than the previous 2 days, but not as well as we had been. So the synthetic, but 10 million for Misty is really nothing on their synthetic. Why? Mainly because they're not that far out, right? Let's go look at the 1550. We're trading at 1483 versus a 1550 number. So not far at all. All right, now we can look at our payouts. So here's what I got for you. Short call income, right? We keep writing those weeklies, and we'll have one more opportunity, right, to write the weeklies. So we could get say 6 million. Let's assume we capture all this as Wilch is built in. Another 6 million on 9 would give us 2/3 of a dollar. It would give us another 67 cents. Call it 60. So all of a sudden, we've got, instead of a dollar to pay out, we've got $1.67. Just by winning this week, writing another week. Now, if people buy in the fund, they can sell, and if they sell synthetic, we'll bring this down and we'll have a win over here, right? Currently, the synthetic is dragging us down. We've got 10 million, which is $1.05, and this guy's losing 5 cents. So when you look at the synthetics, we're able to write by buying the call for cheaper than that we can sell the put. So every time we put money and we put another position on when we're underneath, we collect money. So if they put 50, 80, 100 contracts, maybe 150 contracts because people bought it in the fund, then that would kick that to pay out more money. Normally, people buying into the fund, you distribute it over more shares, but when they actually write the synthetic, if they're way above the synthetic, it costs them money. When they're underneath the synthetic strike price, they actually put money in the piggy bank. All right, so given all of that, we right now really only have $1 to pay out. Does that not mean that they could borrow some money to pay out from here? Sure. Might they? Sure. But what I'm seeing right now is a possibility to get to $2, right? And this, Misty has never had an under $2 distribution. It's never hit a single, right? It doesn't know what a cycle is. So right now it's got $1. And if it was going to pay out tomorrow, I'm sure they'd make it $1.40 or something like that. And even though that's horrible for Misty, it's respectable. But there's a slim chance that we could get to $2. So I'll hold that out and not make a prediction, and I'll make a prediction later this week, seeing if people are buying in and how Bitcoin is trending. I'll probably do it on Wednesday or Thursday. Okay, guys, that's what I got for you. Look, declaration is 10 days away. The payout on July 8th is 15 days. All right. This is Bruce. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Always seek a financial advisor before making financial investments. Have a great rest of the weekend. See ya.